this point. I'm Carrie from Stretch Chi. This is our live Q&A for Saturday morning. Apologize for the technology. I'm getting there bit by bit. You know, I work with bodies and I work with music, and all of that stuff is very not plugged into anything. So technology is something I'm learning, and I love the opportunity to learn. So I'm really grateful that you guys are here. For those of you who are my subscribers, you are welcome to leave comments in the chat and ask questions, okay? If you're not a subscriber, it's free. You just click the subscribe button, and then I think it's about a minute wait. Once you're a subscriber for a full minute, then you can ask a question, and I would love to have your questions. But I have a few that came through this week that I'd love to talk to you about. The first one was about hypertonic pelvic floor muscles and some of the issues that come up with that, specifically with issues of urinating, right? Like feeling full in your bladder and not being able to get much out because the pelvic floor is so tight. Now, I'm not an expert on pelvic floor, but I do have a lot of experience working with clients who have chronic pelvic pain and who have really tight pelvic floors. And I have some stretches for you and some theories on why some of the other stretches that you've been doing don't work, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. I also have a great question from an old client who had a pinched nerve in his neck right up here. They were going to do surgery on his C-spine, and he came to see me first. We did some assisted stretching for about 3 or 4 days, and I mean, not steady, but like, oh, Tommy's going to jump right in front of the camera. Go on, Bubby. There he goes. And so so I worked with him for 4 days, and we fixed the problem. The pain didn't come back, and it's been 10 years. And then he just reached out to me recently, and he was like, I've got the back issue again. It's in the other arm. And he's like, I'm really worried that it's the same issue. But really what happened is, you know, about 2 weeks ago, he was overworked and then did a yoga class and most likely just tweaked it. So, so we'll work on a little bit of exercises today for how to really work on yourself when you're injured, and how to understand what kind of cues your body's giving you, and how to work through that with resistance stretching, which you can do. But of course, disclaimer, if you are in pain, don't do anything, right? Like, don't do anything that hurts. And if there's any doubt at all, this is not a substitute for medical advice. Go see your doctor, go get imaging, do what you need to do, okay? So let's get started. And again, feel free to comment as you want, all right? So the first thing I want to talk about is these like really tight pelvic floor muscles. Now, a lot of the stretching that's out there and a lot of the therapies are really invasive and borderline abusive. And I want to make sure that people understand that you can loosen up these muscles by stretching in a very calm and gentle way without having to take a really aggressive approach, okay? Like if it feels like abuse, it's not gonna help you loosen up, because most likely these muscles tightened up because of some sort of trauma, right? And whether that trauma was abuse, or whether that trauma was a car accident or a fall or nerve damage or from a surgery or whatever, it doesn't matter. It could be from childbirth even. It doesn't matter where the trauma came from. The trauma came from something traumatic. So we don't heal it by doing something traumatic again. You want to make sure that you feel really calm and peaceful as you're stretching. And, you know, be patient with yourself as you're doing it too. And I know this feels strange to people. They're like, I've been told I need to rip the fascia apart. Like, that's not how it works in the pelvic region. Very gentle, calm, soothing area. Now, the way I want to start with this is just by standing up. Make sure, oh good, I am covered. And actually, let's start with our feet just right under our arms here, you know, like straight up and down. I mean, like your feet under your shoulders. And just do a really small kind of walking move, just step in place for a little bit. And then relax right there and notice where your hips are. Do you feel like they're a little twisted, a little forward, a little up, a little down? You can do that by just putting your hands right here on your hip bones. This part right here, this little knobby issue right here, right? It sticks out right in front. So you want to find that piece, okay? And then try walking and notice when you're walking, are you bending from your hip joint here? Or are you feeling that whole carriage moving around, right? Are these hip bones going, or are they able to stay still? Okay, doesn't matter whether they are or not. It's just kind of interesting to get a feeling for it. Then plant your feet on the ground and have a look down and see what you notice. Is one foot in front of the other? Like, are you really noticing this kind of twist? Do you have one foot that's turned out? Right? What does that feel like? Do you feel like you're putting your weight on one leg versus the other? What's the balance here? Okay. And then we're just going to do some really basic hip movements. They seem basic, they seem small. They're actually pretty complicated when you do them. So the first thing is pelvic tuck, anterior and posterior tilt. So the way this looks is you want this part, like your pelvis is like a bowl, right? It's like this big bowl right here. Like if you think of it that way as a bowl. And we're going to do an anterior tilt. When you do an anterior tilt, you tip your pelvis forward like this. You stick your butt up in the air, okay? And it's like turning the bowl this way, like you're going to dump everything out of it forward, okay? So that's your anterior tilt. When you do that, you notice I have a really good curve here in my spine. I want to keep my chest up. Oh, the cats are playing King of the Hill, just so you know, that's the noise. I don't want to lean forward like this, okay? So you really want that tilt in your pelvis. It may be minuscule for you, especially if you're having chronic pelvic pain, okay? Then the next thing is to do the posterior tilt. So we're going to tilt it the other way. And this is taking the bowl and riding it back up. And if you can, think of tilting it back even more. That's going to pull your pelvic bone forward, okay? Or your pubic bone, I'm sorry. Your pubic bone is right here, right in the front, okay? So think about pulling your pubic bone forward as much as you can, tilting back. You're really going to notice your glutes tighten up, all right? And then we're just going to go back and forth like that. So you tilt forward and then posterior tilt. You really feel your legs tightening up, right? You feel your back, your spine. Let me get my arms out of the way so that you can see. They tend to get in the way, but you can keep your hands here right on your hips so you can feel that movement. Okay, my feet are just right under my shoulders, so no problems there, okay? And once we've done enough of those, then we're going to go to side motions. This is lateral tilt. So it's up. This is my right side. So I'm coming up here and then the other side here. And it's very subtle. It's a small movement. I'm basically just, you know, if you have like a level, it's like tilting like this side to side. It's very subtle, very small. I have my hands here on this bone so that I can feel it. And it may help you even to push down on one side and to pull up on the other. And this can be a really gentle movement. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, right? What you don't want in this position is to lean like this. It's not a lean. You want to keep your sternum right over your belly button, okay? So you keep everything stable. Now, if you notice that you've leaned over, stay there with your hips and just right yourself back up. This really helps to do in front of a mirror too. Oh no, I'm all confused. So back and forth, and by back and forth, I mean you're going like up and down just like this. You'll notice that when you do this, you feel a little bit of weight coming off of your feet, but I'm not really like leaning on one side. I'm not lifting my heels up. I'm just moving my pelvis. This is a very small movement, okay? Now the next movement is to take that bowl of your pelvis and turn it this way and this way, all right? And to turn it without moving your legs, okay? So it's your pelvis is going to twist on your legs. And as soon as you start to feel like your knees want to follow you, then you stop, okay? You can turn your pelvis as well, so everything's twisting except my legs are still pointing forward, all right? turning. And you think of it like your legs are like two really strong tree trunks, and everything is just rotating on top of those trees. Okay. So we just go back and forth just like this. So this seems really subtle and you're like, I don't even see how this is going to help, but just wait, because we're going to make it a little harder. Okay. We're going to get into these muscles a little deeper. We just want to really get really loosened up. Okay. Then here's where we're going to get a little bit more complicated. Bring your legs a little bit apart, like just a little open here. And again, you're just going to find your hip bones here so that you kind of have a way of balancing and understanding what's going on. We're going to do those anterior and posterior tilts again. So this is the one where you tip the bowl forward, keeping your chest right where it is, and then tilt the bowl backwards, pulling your pubic bone forward, and really feel stretch to the front of your hips here, right? And then tilt again. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right? Now, a lot of you are probably thinking like, how on earth is this opening up my pelvic floor muscles? Well, we have to figure out like why your pelvic floor is so tight. And usually it's because the muscles around are not stable enough to keep your pelvis in place. So by strengthening and stretching everything kind of around it, we can get those opened up. And then in a little bit, I'm going to show you a way that you can stretch this from the inside, like by breathing deep. It's really cool. We want to make sure everything's really open first. So again, this is anterior and posterior tilt. So here's my anterior tilt where I'm tilting forward. I see a big curve in my spine, right? And then we're going to take that curve out. I'm pushing my tailbone down and tucking under. My pubic bone is coming forward. Okay, so now notice that this is gone, right? And then the anterior tilt comes back in, and here I have that, my belly comes out. Here, I'm keeping my chest up. I have a curve in my spine, and then I'm going to reverse. Now with my legs further apart, it's stretching the muscles in a little bit of a different way, okay? Awesome. And let's do one more. Okay, and now we're gonna do the lateral up and down. So your legs are apart, not so much that I'm feeling a deep stretch, just kind of a little bit out, right? And then I wanna keep my legs active by like trying to squeeze them in together. And then we're gonna do lateral raise. So I'm lifting my right hip up towards the ceiling. My left hip is going down to the floor. And then I'm gonna reverse the two. And as you do this, you're gonna start feeling really subtle stretch, maybe not so subtle, in your inner thighs. Of course, don't do anything that doesn't feel good, okay? And you just go up and down just like this. It's just an up like this and a down like this. Now just be aware that you don't want your upper body to follow through with you, okay? So if you notice that you're going like this, just right yourself back up and go to the other side, okay? It's a really great, like I said before, do this in front of a mirror so that you can see what you're doing, all right? Remember to keep your legs really active so that you can get that resistance stretch. So good, right? Kind of strange. It's a little bit of a challenge, and especially if you've got pelvic pain, you're probably all locked up from here to here, right? So even these movements, like if you can't get the movements to happen, you're like, I can't do this. Just the mental intention of doing these movements is going to start getting that movement happening for you, okay? So even if you don't feel like you're doing anything, just mentally put yourself through it and you are, okay? Things will happen. Now we're gonna do our twists. So we're gonna go this way and this way, all right? So what you'll do, keep your legs locked in place, lead with the right. This is my right, could be your left if you're mirroring me. And just twist without twisting your legs. You can twist the front of your body too. And then we'll go to the other side. If it hurts your knee, you've gone too far, okay? None of this should be painful. And you just go back and forth. Now again, be gentle with yourself, all right? The only way to heal chronic pain, in my opinion, is to make sure that you feel really safe. And if you're feeling any pain or if this doesn't feel good and you don't feel safe, your body's in fight or flight mode. Okay. And if you're in fight or flight mode, healing doesn't happen. It's not important at that point in time. Your body doesn't take time to rest, digest, or heal when there's like a lion outside of your tent, right? You just have to get away. And when you're in fight or flight mode, which I think is very common with chronic pelvic pain, to be in constant fight or flight mode, that's where the healing doesn't necessarily take place, because you're kind of like constantly on the run, right? You're trying to protect yourself. Oh, that brings me to, I'm wearing my Apollo Neuro again this week, which is this device on my leg. It sends tapping rhythmic pulses to your body to remind you that you're safe, to pull you into a parasympathetic nervous system mode. And it's really great. I've noticed since I started wearing it that my sleep has drastically improved. This week, actually, I slept on average 9.5 hours a night, which is a little too much, but I think little healing too, just a little healing aspect. And then my heart rate variability is the other thing that's really important. Heart rate variability is kind of like you're testing your basis for how much you're in fight or flight mode versus how much you're in your rest and digest, which is sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. You need more parasympathetic nervous system to let your body heal and rest, to get some of this opened up and to stop clenching so much, right? That's the fight or flight that does that, right? So if you have any kind of trackable that tells you your heart rate variability, it would be really good for you to look that up and see what it is. If it's really low, it means that you're not in rest and digest enough, which could be affecting a lot of things like your healing, your tightness, your recovery time. Also, how much you're digesting food in a good way. Like, it's pretty important. Or like how well you're sleeping, right? That's all on this side. And then a really high heart rate variability means that you actually are resting and digesting really well. I don't know if I said that. I think I got distracted, but low is not good. High is really good. Okay. So you may want to check that out and see. It's something I'm really fascinated by because it really does make a huge difference. Now, going back to your body, I've opened up my legs a little bit more. So this isn't my deepest stretch, but it's close. Okay. And I'm going to keep my legs active. Like I'm trying to pull my feet together. It's really important. And then I'm going to do those anterior and posterior tilts again. So I'm tipping the bowl forward and now I'm pulling it back. Now you may notice that this one's a lot more intense because you're at a wider distance, right? So this one may start to feel like something. So just very gentle, nice and controlled, no pain, right? If it's painful, it's too much, okay? So just stop if it's painful, because I do not want you to feel any fear when you're doing these movements, okay? Super important. So anterior and posterior tilt. And then here we're gonna do lateral raises. So we're going up and down just like this, keeping your sternum above your belly button, okay? It may help even put one hand here, and make sure that they're not moving, but your hips are moving, all right? It's also great if you salsa dance, just saying. Belly dancers, it's great for you guys. So good. All right. And now let's tilt the bowl. This is going to be a smaller range of motion, right? Make sure that feels okay for you. And again, if anything doesn't feel good, bring your legs in closer, move in smaller ranges. Don't do it at all. It's totally fine, okay? It's totally fine. All right. Okay, now bring your legs in together. Now I know it doesn't feel like we did much, but go ahead and do that walking motion again. You may notice that you feel a little springier in your step, or that you feel more of this fold here at the bottom of your hips instead of feeling your hips moving all over the place, right? And then you may also notice, if you stop moving, that something's different. You might have more even feet, right? One's not as far forward. Maybe one's not turned out as much. Maybe you don't feel twisted, right? You may notice a difference there. So that's huge, okay? Now let's come down into a seated position, and we're gonna work through our groin stretch. So this one we do in resistance stretching by pulling up this way and then pushing open. So let's just do a couple of those just to get warmed up. So you squeeze in, this is your strength training move. Your arms are fighting you just a little, and then use your arms to open you back up. You'll feel a stretch in your inner thighs, hopefully. Okay, so up for strength and down for stretch. And we just go back and forth just like this. Nice, gentle, easy stretch for your inner thighs. Okay, you don't have to push too hard. You don't have to try to push yourself into a deep stretch. It's not helpful. Okay, now let's stretch from the other direction. Right now, what we're doing is moving your legs to stretch the muscles close to your pelvis, right? But now what we're going to do is hold this stretch kind of at the bottom. Find a place where you feel a decent stretch. Keep a little bit of resistance, doesn't have to be a lot. And take some deep breaths, really deep into your pelvis. Like you really want to feel like you're like bearing down, almost like if you were going to go to the bathroom or something. Okay, so take a really deep breath. And just feel like there's a ball, like a basketball in your abdomen. And then exhale. And then again, another really deep breath. And feel that ball of energy down here, that opening at the base of your pelvis. Okay, and then exhale. Really good exhale. Okay, and then another really deep breath, deep down into your pelvis. All right, and then visualize that bowling ball that's in your pelvis and kind of roll it around. It's very subtle. So this imagery of it. There's a little bit of like rotating. I'm moving counterclockwise, but you could try clockwise as well. There's usually one that feels better, right? Just a really small, subtle movement, rolling that ball around. You could try leaning forward and back, but you want to keep that feeling of kind of like bearing down, that feeling like you just took a really deep breath into the base of your pelvis, okay? Just kind of work around it. Wiggle your upper body while holding your lower body, okay? And then let's go back to this one. So in for strength and open for your stretch again. Sometimes it feels like a better stretch after you've done that upper body, you know? Sometimes it feels really good. I mean, a lot of times it feels really good. Oh, I was talking to you guys about the Apollo Neuro. I'm not selling it. I don't have any interest in it at all, except that I think it's really cool, but I have it covered up. It's this thing. You just wear it on your ankle and it sends little vibrations. You schedule it through the day. It's really awesome. It's really awesome. I think I've talked to everyone I know into buying one. They really should give me a kickback. But anyway, it's like the coolest thing I own. The next thing I want to do is work on your hamstrings. Now, this is kind of, I don't want to say it's like the last resort, but when we talk about like actually being able to go to the bathroom, like that's an important thing in everyday life and functioning, right? Like we need to be able to do that. So this stretch, you know, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that it's very easy to pair up resistance stretching and fascial lines with Chinese medicine. And there is a bladder line for Chinese medicine, and it lines up with the back of your spine, the back of your head, everything kind of like down through your body, but also this outer hamstring here. And the line actually runs through your glutes and in through your sacrum here. So you can see how that would also affect like any sort of tightness in your pelvic region, right? So let's stretch that one out. I'm going to show you this stretch. It's a little bit of a tricky one, but it's actually pretty awesome. You're going to lay on your back, bring your right leg up, and then take your left arm and grab your foot on the outside. Then what you want to do is just turn your knee in towards your shoulder, or towards your elbow. So I've got my right leg up. This is my left arm, and I'm going to try to get my knee to touch my elbow. Okay, it's just a little rotation. Now let me walk you through that again because it's tricky. All right, so bring your right leg up. Okay, take your left arm over top and grab the outside of your foot, and then try to touch your knee to your elbow. It doesn't have to go there. It just has to be an intention of getting there, okay? Then you'll kick down, keep resisting while your arm pulls you up. So it's just a little bit of a resistance stretch to get into this lateral hamstring. So it's like a diagonal stretch across your body. Kick down for strength and up for stretch. And you just go back and forth, just like this, right? It's not too complicated. It's getting into it's the complicated part. And then just remember, with resistance stretching, you always want to be adding a little bit of a struggle in your stretch. So just a little fight between your arm and your leg. All right. So my arm's winning. My leg is fighting. I'm not really struggling. Like I said, struggle. It's not hard for me to pull up like this. It's just a little effort. Okay. It's just not relaxed, right? It's different than static stretching. That's a very important thing. Okay, now let's do the other side. So bring your left leg up. Notice I'm holding my head with my left hand now. It helps to get your shoulders up a little. It helps to reach, okay? So your left leg up, then take your right arm over top, my thumb's down, and I'm grabbing the outside of my foot. Okay, let me get you in there again. Left leg up, right leg up, or right arm up, I'm sorry. Left leg up, right arm. Your right arm goes over your shin and grabs the outside of your foot. Okay, so it's the opposite arm, opposite leg. Then turn your knee in towards your elbow. Try to touch your knee and your elbow together, okay? Doesn't matter if they do, just get the intention of it. Then kick down for strength, a little bit of resistance. So your leg is trying to stay down, your arm's coming up, and you just go up and down just like this. Now, I'm fairly certain that if you're having chronic pelvic pain issues or like hypertonic pelvic floor muscles, if you do these exercises a couple times a week, you're going to feel a difference. You're going to feel better. Okay. So just give it a chance. All right. It's also possible after doing these stretches, because it is a strength training routine and it is moving stuff around, that you might be a little sore for a day or two. So don't be surprised if that happens. That actually is good because it means things are changing. All right. So don't be too worried about it. The best thing you can do actually, if you're sore, is to do those stretches again. All right. I know that seems a little counterintuitive, but it's the way that resistance stretching works. Eccentric contractions is when you lower the weight. Sometimes there's a delayed onset soreness, and science shows if you do the same exercise again, that delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS, that they go away. Okay. So make sure that you're doing these stretches a few days a week. You'll feel really good. Also, you guys, I have tons of videos online, but I also have an online course called Stretch Chi 101. I have the link all over everything, but I'll make sure that it's in this video when I go back and edit. But Stretch Chi 101 is a very basic, get you started course that starts at like simple scratch. Like you could be a professional athlete who doesn't stretch very often, or you could be somebody walking with a cane, and everybody can do these, okay? So it starts you off really simple, teaches you resistance stretching, building the fundamentals in Stretch Chi 101. So if you're finding that like this is too hard for you, but you really know resistance stretching is the thing, do those videos. You will thank me, okay? Stretch Chi 101 is 16 weeks of videos for $9.99 a month. It's like a steal, really. But I want you guys to be learning resistance stretching and really learning how to make use of it. And then Stretch Chi 201 takes you into problem solving. Stretch Chi 301 is so cool. It's what I'm filming right now. And it is like yoga poses, like really intense yoga poses. And then the stretch is building strength and flexibility so that you can actually do those yoga poses in a really safe way. So that one's actually really fun because you're really exploring your body and moving through. And then my intention is also to film 401, which is like putting it all together with a mind-body connection, taking like spiritual aspects, like really using resistance stretching to calm you down in your everyday life or to enhance who you are as a person. by creating balance in your life. So it's pretty cool. All of those videos also include breathing exercises to help you get into a parasympathetic nervous system state before you're stretching. And then they finish with a meditation shavasana afterwards. So really amazing. I mean, I'm tooting my own horn here, but I'm pretty proud of them. So go ahead and check those out. Okay, now the next thing, let's see how I am on time because I do have to go somewhere. I usually only do a half hour, but today's going to be a long one. The other question that I had was from my client who was having the pain in his neck. Now, sometimes we get really scared and we start going to all these therapists and people are telling us a million different things like ice it, put heat on it, stretch, don't stretch, rest, get surgery, go to the person, take these steroids, take these anti-inflammatories, like, eat kale. I don't know. Everybody's got a theory, but I'll tell you guys, this is pretty basic. You know your body better than anybody else. And if I can give you one lesson on top of everything else in the world, if somebody gives you advice, but they're not asking for your input specifically, then that advice is not to be trusted. I got to tell you, you know your body the best, and every single person is different, and every injury that looks the same is different. Okay. For some people, they will need surgery. For other people, they will need the anti-inflammatories. For other people, they will need stretching. For other people, they'll need ice. For other people, they'll need heat, but it all looks the same. So that being said, if it feels good for you to put a heating pad on something, then that's the thing to do. If it feels good to put ice on it, that's the thing to do. If it feels good to do both, go for it. If it feels good to be in a hot tub, go for it. If it feels good to be dry in a sauna, go for it, right? But it's so important, especially when you're getting any sort of therapy or manipulation. If you go to a therapist, if you go to a massage therapist, if they're not listening to you or if they're putting you through pain, it is not helping, okay? Hands down, you need to be in a place where you feel safe and in control if you're going to heal your own body, okay? So that being said, here's how you can do that on your own when you're stretching. Now, his big question was, well, if stretching's good, why can't I do yoga? Well, if he's got a shoulder injury or a neck issue, which is, in my opinion, the muscles from your shoulders go into your upper spine, right? So if you're having some sort of disc issue or a pinched nerve or something, it's most likely coming from your shoulders. And if you're doing downward dog and chaturanga constantly, which is this movement here, look at how much pressure is on your shoulders at this point, right? And then if you're coming down into this position, do you think that's going to be helpful? And even like this, like, come on, that's not going to be helpful for your shoulders, first off, right? You're just putting more strain on them. So that in itself is, to me, a no-go. But also, any deep static stretching is not going to be helpful because it doesn't create change in your body. It's not, it's opening you up for the short term, okay? There is science behind that. I have books I can recommend if you guys want. One of them is called Yoga Biomechanics by Jules Mitchell. I highly recommend that if you want to really understand what's happening with your body and what's happening when you're doing yoga, especially if you're a yoga person and you're real mad at me right now, right? Read that book, trust me. Jules also has like book clubs and workshops and all kinds of stuff. She's actually so smart and so fantastic, and really goes into the science of stretching, the science of yoga, how it all works, anyway, beside the point. Jules Mitchell, she's amazing. So here's the thing. This client of mine was having pain in his left arm coming from what he thinks is a pinched nerve in his neck. Now, the best thing you can do actually in that case is work on the other arm. And you want to find it in a way that feels really good to you. Now, you may need help with this because if the arm that hurts isn't working properly, you may need someone to help you through these stretches. Now, I found for him, there were a couple very important stretches that we needed to do to get that open, and it was on the other side. So you want to start with the side that doesn't hurt, okay? And then go into this is our trapezius stretch. So you just bring your arm across your body like this. Your other hand just grabs your wrist if that feels good, if it doesn't create the pain in the shoulder. And then give it some resistance, just a little bit, and see how that feels. If you have pain right away, you stop doing it, okay? You just listen to your body. And then you can try moving up and then moving down. And if the pain starts, you stop immediate, okay? And you maybe just move in this range of motion if that feels good. And what you'll start to notice is a little bit of burn and a stretch in the side of your shoulder here. Now, I do the stretch like this, and you've probably seen me do it. If you watch my channel, we stretch the neck, we go through the whole thing. But if you're having pain or some sort of issue, then that big stretch is going to feel intimidating and scary and difficult. So what you do is very slowly move in a small range of motion. This would also work for like frozen shoulder, that sort of thing. Like if you're really struggling, you just go back and forth just like this. Really small movement. Okay. And what you're going to notice is that burn in the back of your shoulder, like I said, like in a good way though. Okay. Now the next stretch I want to do is for the front of your shoulder here. We're going to use a door for this one. So you go up into a doorway. You're going to bring your arm down to the side like this and grab the outside of the door. Now remember, I'm working on the shoulder that doesn't hurt. I'm working on the healthy side. Okay. Now here, what I'm going to do is push my arm into the wall, into the door frame, and I'm just going to twist in and out to get a stretch. And you feel that stretch to the front of your shoulder. Okay, it's just a little back and forth, just like this. Really simple, really easy. You don't even have to use this arm, you just let it rest. Okay, move in small ranges of motion. If it feels good, that's great. If it doesn't feel good, stop doing it. Work in small ranges. All right, doesn't have to be a lot to be effective. Really doesn't. It has to be safe to be effective. It has to feel good to be effective. Now the next stretch is for your pecs. So you're going to take your arm in a different angle. Bring your arm up about like 90 degrees like this. And again, put it in the door frame just like this. And you're going to go in and out, open and close just like this. Resist by pushing your arm into the door. So I'm trying to pull this way. And you just go back and forth. And again, small range of motion. Doesn't have to be big, just has to feel safe. Back and forth. You see, it's pretty simple, but listening to your body to know what feels good. You'll start to feel a little burn in the front of your shoulder, hopefully. Okay. Then we're going to swap it. So put the outside of your arm against the wall again and push into the wall. And we're going to twist. So you're turning towards your arm to close it up and then pushing open. You're going to feel this in the back of your shoulder. All right. It's a very easy, very simple, gentle movement. Okay. Feel a little tired or a little burn in the back of your shoulder. That's a good sign. If it hurts, you don't do it. Okay. If it really hurts, you stop completely. If it hurts at a certain point, work in the range of motion that feels good. So maybe it's just this much. Okay. That could be it. Super simple. All right. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, but it's important that we've opened up this side first. Okay. So bring your arm across your body. This one may be a little more tender. This is the one that has the pain in it, right? So you just bring one arm over the top here, add resistance. If that hurts already, you just don't do it. Okay. Just stop. Wait for the next stretch. Then from here, if that feels okay, try moving in a small range of motion, really small. And see how that feels. Can you do that without pain? If it feels better, if it feels okay, try increasing that range of motion and see if you can do that without pain. All right. If you can come all the way up without pain, go for it. And just take it nice and easy, just like that. And I know this seems crazy because you're like, but I'm not stretching my neck, and that's where the issue is. Doesn't matter. You're stretching the muscles that are connected to the neck, and that's important. Okay. It's about finding equilibrium in your body so that piece isn't being pinched. Okay. That's all it is. All right. And after you've done a few of those and you start to feel that burn in the back of your shoulder, then we'll go back up to the door. And we're going to do this same one where you bring your hand here. So I've got my palm against the door frame just like this. And I'm just going to push my arm into the door and very gently open and close. So opening and closing, but resisting all the time and working in a really small range of motion. You may notice that this one actually feels really good. This stretch is the one that pulls your shoulders really forward like this. And that puts the most strain on the back of those muscles that connect into your neck and your shoulders, right? When you've got that strain on those sides in the back, then that's where like an imbalance happens. And that's when you can have those disc issues up in the top of your neck. So we need to make sure that this is open and it takes the pressure off the back. It's kind of like, how to explain it? It's kind of like if you pull your suspenders in the front, they get tight in the back, right? But the pull is here and the tightness is back here, right? So if you're pulling, the answer isn't to also pull back here, which is what most people do when they stretch. The answer is to release the pull here, right? So that's what we're doing at this point, is we're releasing the pull forward from your shoulders. Good one. Now bring your arm up at that 90-degree angle. Put the inside of your arm here, the inner part, on the outside of the door frame. And we'll twist in and open and close again, just like this, a nice pec stretch. And again, just work in the small range of motion. It doesn't have to be a lot. And if it hurts, stop completely. If you don't feel safe doing the stretch, figure out how you can feel safe doing it or skip it. Because if it doesn't feel safe, it's not the answer. It's not the one that's going to create the solution to the problem, okay? Pain never works. Never works. I mean, if there's one paradigm shift that everyone should understand, like if there's one thing that I wish everyone would ingrain in themselves, is that when stretching is painful, it is not helping you. When stretching feels good, it is helping. Stretching should never be painful. It doesn't have to be, okay? Now let's reverse it. So bring this arm up here so that the outside of your arm is against the inside of the door frame here. And you're just gonna push into the wall while you twist into that stretch and open and close. Now again, if you're having trouble with these stretches, let me know, send me a note. I'll send you like the detailed version of how to do these. There's other videos, of course, online. Also, the Stretch 101s are really great, like no brainer. Like you don't have to think about it. You just do the stretches, okay? Just every week a new class that builds on each other, you know? Like every week it's just a little bit harder. And you do it at your own pace. All right, very good. And that's it. And what you may notice now is that you feel like your posture is a little bit more back, that you feel open here, that you feel like the suspenders aren't being pulled forward like this, but you're being opened back up again, and that there's a little bit of relief there. You may not notice a huge difference right away because a lot of times when there's nerve damage, it takes some time for the nerve to heal. But if you keep doing these stretches in a way that feels really good to you, not bad, you most likely will notice a change over time, okay? Like pretty quickly over time, like within the next day or two, you should notice a change. If you don't, that's when you start to look into other things, or maybe schedule an appointment with me, okay? I can do an online session with you. If you're in the Chicago area or you wanna come into town, I can do like an assisted stretching session with you where I work you through the stretches. That usually is incredibly helpful. But also, like I said before, the most important thing for you is to listen to your body. If your body is saying that you need to go to the surgeon, then go to the surgeon, right? Like listen to yourself, listen to your body. It knows best. All right, my friends. Well, that was a lot longer than the half hour I usually do, but I'm really grateful that we're here, and I'm grateful for all of you who watch this even after the 5 minutes. I'm going to edit that all out too. So hopefully for the rest of you watching, you enjoy it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel because all the algorithms on Facebook and YouTube are, someone said the other day, a hungry beast. Those algorithms are important, and the more subscribers I have, the better. I have a huge goal of getting a certain number of subscribers. I'm working towards it. So if you are not a subscriber to my channel yet, please do. It is free. It's totally free. You just click the little button. See, if you look down on YouTube under my name, it says my name, little picture, and then it says subscribe, and next to it is a little bell. So click the subscribe, and then if you hit the bell icon, it'll also send you reminders when I go live, and also when I publish a new video. And those reminders are really just a notification in YouTube, and also I think an email I think that's it. But you don't have to do the notifications. You just subscribe. It's so helpful for me and it helps me to reach my goal. Also, if you have any questions, even after the fact, put them in the chat. I will read them. I will include them in next week's video. And also, if you're here live, you can always ask questions if you're a subscriber. Okay, my friends, that's it for today. I'm going to get going. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. And